Good day. For those who play at the level that is below 2000, but even over 2000 maybe, or 2200 going downwards, I have a good weapon for you for black, if playing the black pieces. I know most players struggle to play with black, especially after e4, best by test according to Bobby Fischer. So this opening is not, it's a rare opening. It's not played every day. You don't see it at the highest level. You don't see it on your Super Grandmaster level. But I can tell you that this opening, anybody can play it. And it's not hard to, it's not difficult to get the moves. It's simple. It's called the Gundarem attack, the Gundarem Defence actually. So basically, it starts by e4 and e5, and we have this normal. I know people are afraid to play e5 after e4 because there's so many lines to study. You've got your Italian game. You've got the Ruy Lopez. You've got your King's Gambit. You've got everything. So if you white doesn't play King's Gambit and he plays the normal lines, your knight f3, which is the most played move after e5. We have queen e7. This is the move that it looks weird because you're putting your queen in front of your bishop, and you're closing in your bishop, and also you're putting your queen forward early. But I can promise you black has nothing to fear. So normally white will play bishop c4, trying to go knight g5 at later stage and attack f7. So here you don't play knight f6 because knight g5 comes away straight away. So you can play here h6. And if he plays knight c3, it's normal, but here they can castle or they can play d4. But anything with d4, anytime you see d4, rule of thumb, then d6 comes, because you have to capture here by the pawn, nothing else. And you can't play knight c6 because you have to capture the knight will have to come here. So every time you see knight c3, you have to play c6. If they castle or still play d4, you play d4 is d6. If they castle, you still play d6 or knight f3. Say white plays castles here, then your knight f6 comes, d4 comes, d6 comes. It doesn't matter. If they capture, you capture with the pawn, it doesn't matter. But most people from the games I've played, because I've played this opening for years, so anything under 2200, it's comfortable for black. Maybe it gets difficult when it goes to grandmaster level and other levels that are higher, but as long as you're less than 2000 rated player, this open you can play it with a smile on your face. Nothing will happen to you. For the games I've played, I've seen that white is always afraid of bishop g4. I don't know for what reason, but if they don't play h3, you're gonna play bishop g4, not to take the knight but to bring the bishop here. So normally they'll play h6, and now the queen goes to c7. If they play rook e1 or bishop e3, whatever they play, it doesn't matter. There's nothing they can do. Maybe they'll play rook e3 to put the rook against, then bishop e7 now comes. If they play bishop e3, knight d7. If they take, you take. If they could play queen d2, there's nothing for white. You get to 20 moves, then white has nothing that should make black panic or put them in any worry whatsoever. There's no problem whatsoever in this opening. And even if you look at after queen d2 to queen d2, even here there's nothing. Even after castling, there's nothing. They can take, but then there's nothing for them. right? Castling, they want, they can sacrifice, but I don't see, there's nothing really for white. It should just be a piece for nothing, a piece for free. I know there are attacks. If black wants, you can actually play maybe in this position rook d1, but let's say for example they take something like this, yeah, maybe, yeah, maybe. But there's nothing for, there's nothing whatsoever. There's no attack. It's just gonna be a beautiful game. Now what's gonna come is maybe bishop b4, and then you threaten to take on f7. Bishop b4 is threatened to go and take on b7. So basically you've got an opening that is playable for white, for black, right? So if you want to say we go back to here where they don't have to take, maybe they play rook d1. There is nothing here really. You've got moves like knight c5 if you want to. Knight c5. Right. Threatening to take here and take here twice. There's not much that white can do. Anyway, let's go back again and start from and look at other lines that can be played from this position. So after e4, e5, knight f3, queen e7, play knight c3 straight away, knight c3 straight away. We play c6, bc4, h6, d4, d6. Nothing here. There's nothing for. If they want to castle queen side, maybe say play bishop here. Bishop goes to g4, queen d2. If they want to play that, let's say they play knowing they're castling queen side. So we've got queen d2, knight b d7. You also have castling on that side also. It's not only white who can castle that side, queen side. Say the castle here. White has got so many, or black has got so many options. It's a position that is not, it doesn't look like it's the best thing, but there's nothing that white can do because black's pieces are defending themselves. They look cramped for most of the time, but it's not an opening that is like, if you play the Ruy Lopez for example, one has to know all the lines. If you make a one move mistake, then you're in problems. If you play the two knights, if you make a mistake, you're gonna have a problem. If you play the Italian on the black, I mean I'm talking of black side, the Scotch, you name it, any opening that white plays e4 and you play e5, any mistake you make, you know you're gonna have a very big problem. But not only that, it's not only for e5 lines, it's actually for, say you are a French player or maybe a Sicilian or Caribbean player, and on that particular day maybe you know that I'm playing a very strong player, or I know this person, they'll crush my French, or they're a very higher rated player. This opening is a go-to opening. It's an opening where you say, okay, I'm not going to play anything fancy, but I'm going to say, if you can prove that your opening is strong, then bring it on. All right, bring it on. That's what this opening is. You're challenging white to say they must prove that they've got the advantage. They're going to prove that your opening is wrong. They're going to prove that they can beat you for your opening. So that's why an opening like this is playable. So sometimes in this line you can have lines where the bishop on f8 is developed via g7. So that'll be a g6, b, g7, and then castle, right? But there's no rules to this opening. The person who started this opening is a Brazilian. He played the game, you find it even on Google. That's the first game. I think it was 1958, if I'm not mistaken. That's when this opening was first played. So from all the openings, from all the games you'll see about this opening, there's no way white just walked over black. It's an opening that is flexible. You're gonna have to play this opening with an open mind. You're gonna have to play this opening. So if you're gonna start playing it, you're gonna have to start playing it on blitz. But I've got over 100 games, of which I will add them. There will just be videos, maybe short videos that will just follow. So for those who are gonna watch this video and see this opening, you can look forward to seeing videos of short games of this particular opening. And then you see the black side, because there are so many dynamics. White can play bishop c4, they can play knight c3, they can play they play so many things. I've come across so many openings, so many lines, e4, e5, knight f3, queen e7. You find them playing things like d4 sometimes, or so there are many ways, but there are things just to learn. Anytime white plays knight c3, you're gonna have to play c6. Anytime white plays d4, you're gonna have to play d6. You can't play knight f6 without, so those are rules of thumb. You can't play knight f6 without playing h6, especially if your queen is still there, because there's a weakness on f7. That weakness is made worse by the fact that your queen is standing there, and it doesn't allow for you to put maybe a knight there or another piece that can push d5. But at the same time, you can't play d5 because there's no piece that is supporting the pawn on going to d5. And also, since you can't have a piece that's going to support it, or if you try to play your knight f6, then you allow knight g5. So if the pawn is not played to h6, it's just going to cause you problems. So there are moves that one has to make, whether they like them or not. Your bishop g4 is not necessary, but sometimes I've noticed through the games that I've played that if you leave the bishop not developed, you're gonna develop all your pieces, and it can go to the end game while still sitting on c8, because it will not have good squares. The only square it will have will be d7, but that square will also be competing with the knight on d7 to settle there nicely. But then if you are quick to develop your bishop, then your knight can go and sit there, and your bishop can always come to e6. It can always stay there, and you have a good game. But I will show games, a lot of games. There are a lot, both on Lead Chess and on chess.com, games that have I've played the opening, where you see that it's a very playable opening. It's not a difficult opening to learn. So there's nothing much to learn in this. I mean, the moves that one has to make, it's not that difficult. It's very simple. It's just you just know after e5, knight f3, queen e7. I mean, so we're just summarizing up, just to queen e7. Nothing happens to the queen, and white doesn't have anything. In fact, if anything, the first thing white instinctively that they'll try and do is to try and say, okay, so let me go to. So they normally 9 times out of 10 they'll play bishop c4 in this position. If they don't, they'll play knight c3 because they want to go on d5. But like we said, the moment knight c3 is played, you play this. If the knight comes to c3, we just play c6. That is a given. If they don't do that, if they play bishop c4, we play h6. But even now you can play d6 if you like, because they can't play knight g5 because you just take the knight. But they'll prepare for it, maybe, but they'll play d4 next move. So h6 is a move that is always good. It's played in almost any or every opening, from your Ruy Lopez to your Italian. It's just a good move. Later on, when you castle, it stops back rank mate. It stops bishop g5, knight g5. So it's never bad. It's never a bad idea to play h6. So in this position, you play h6, and no matter what they say, you cannot have a problem in this position. You cannot be attacked. You cannot say you've wasted a move. You played a queen, you've played a pawn, and you've not developed pieces. This opening, you're saying to white, okay, you've developed your pieces, show me how that's profitable. Prove to me that you've developed your pieces. The rules of the principles of opening theory say that develop your pieces, unite before bishops, blah blah blah. But there is nothing for, so normally they develop a third piece, and you say, well, this should be winning for white, because white has got 3 pieces out and black doesn't. But just after c6, there's nothing. Prove to me that you've got a dangerous opening. Even if you play d4, it's fine. You just play d6. So what? You want to capture, so what? Then what? There's nothing for white. There's nothing they can do. There's no threat. They cannot do anything. Even if they wanted to threaten, there's no good squares. I've seen this a lot. But this goes there. If they choose to go there, this goes there. Whichever way they castle, bishop e7. If they castle king side, bishop e7 follows. So in some lines you can play knight d7, knight f8, and then to e6 or to g6 without castling. Then your bishop goes to d7. You can castle long, or you can castle short. It depends what you like. So I'll just add some games that people can actually go to. But this opening, there's nothing. So for one to get the feel of the opening, it's good when you're watching games, but the games that we have online, they're limited. You won't find a lot of games. That's why I've gone this route of trying to share the games that have been played. I'll look for the original game from Gundarem himself, the Brazilian, but I think it was played in the Netherlands in 1958, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I'll also add that game, and then I will add some of my games and other games that I might find, just to give the intermediate player or the average player or someone who's struggling. You know, there are times as a chess player when you are lost, and when you see that you're lost for what opening to play. The game, the e4, open games are just dangerous. It's a dangerous place to be in. When white plays e4, there are many openings you can play, but in those openings you have to know them exactly what you have to play. If you make any mistake, it might be the end of the game, or you might lose a piece, or you might lose a pawn. So in the end, you get to a situation where you're not confident of what can I play, and you get a headache. What must I play as black if white plays e4? And I'm saying that especially if e4, e5, you can play e4, e5 and not worry. So some people like Ian Nepo from Russia, he plays his Petrov. He doesn't play anything else. e4, e5, knight f3, knight f6. He will never play anything else. That's what he plays, and he studied it. But I wouldn't play something like that. It's boring, and it brings symmetrical positions. And sometimes people have to go out of their comfort zone to try and get a win, but most of the time that opening ends in draws. This one is like a spring. Black looks like he's defending for most of the time. It's like a defensive opening, and they're cramped. But if white makes a mistake, as you will see with the games that I'll show you, if white makes a mistake or relaxes or gets reckless, this opening is like a spring. It will explode in his face. It will just, black can just have a very good position. You've got moves like knight h5 to f4. You've got your bishop to e6, forcing the exchange, and then using the f file to attack. There are a lot of things. A knight in f4, if white doesn't take, or if they do take, it's giving the queen on c7 more energy, more power, more. There's more the queen on c7 can do. And when the bishop has moved from e7, the queen can swiftly move to the king side, or to e7, and then to the dark squares there. But on the queen side also, there's an expansion of a5, a4, b5, and so on and so on. So black doesn't is not limited. The position looks cramped. But the anchor of this position is the e5 pawn. There's no piece that can really attack that pawn on e5. I've seen lines where white plays knight from f to d2 and then tries to play f4, and it's just ignored. Especially when there's a knight on d7. If there's a knight on d7, you just ignore it. And if they take, when you take, you're attacking the bishop on c4, but at the same time you are now able to play a rook on, bishop on d6, and that b8 h2 diagonal is open. So white can't be reckless. But even in a position like this on the board right now, you've got to move like knight g4, for example, knight g4. So black has got many options, but it appears that white is in control because they are ahead in development and they have a seemingly good game. But don't let this position fool you. I've been on the black side of this position many a time, and I've been comfortable, more comfortable than I was when I was on the black side of the board with, playing the Ruy Lopez or the Italian or the Scotch, or even the Sicilian. After e5 and queen e7, I've played well. I've got many games that I won than games that I've lost. But one would argue, no, well, it's blitz, but it's even better if it's not blitz and it's a classic. It's a classical game. Because there you have the added advantage that white is telling themselves, well, I've developed and I've got a very good position. And in the meantime, they think that you've got a dead position, but there's nothing that proves that. They have to prove. The onus is on white for them to prove that, well, their lead in development is equal to a win. But from what I've seen so far, especially at any level under 2000 rating, that's not the case. So yeah, I will share some videos that will show that this opening is actually quite good for black. Until the next video, I will show you why this opening, I'll keep on proving why this opening is good. So one can look forward to a lot of games that will be added here that will show that the Gundarem the Gundarem Defence is a very playable system. And for those that are at any level and struggle to play, are struggling to what to play after e4, e5, knight f3 on the black side of things, this is the opening for them, and it will not let them down. They'll gain elo, they will win a lot of games with it. Because for one, it's not a well-known opening for white, and it's not an opening that white would have expected, and not an opening that they have spent years or months or whatever time preparing to play against as white. They've probably done years of research study on their Ruy Lopez, their Scotch, their Italian game, and so on and so on. So when you give them this, they'll say, this is the piece of cake. Black is not developed. He put his queen in front. He's an amateur. He's a beginner. I'm going to walk all over him. And then they find out the position doesn't play itself. They still have to prove on the board why this is wrong. And then I can tell you, more than 70% of them fail dismally to prove that their position is a one position. They can't prove it. The game can't play itself. There's no headway. That pawn on e5 is sitting pretty, and it's like saying, well, come get me if you can, and nothing can get that pawn. So I will share the games, and I hope that people will enjoy this this opening. So don't be surprised if you watch this. Just subscribe, and then follow this so subscribe, like the video, subscribe, and then set your notifications so that when it comes again, this opening, or when I upload the games, you will come through to you. But you will find there are many games that I'll share for this opening, because in this day and age, as a chess player, what we all want is to improve on our game. We want to get our elo up, we want to get our rating up, we want to beat those players that are difficult to beat. But sometimes openings become a nightmare. There are openings that, you know, if you're sitting on the other side of the board and somebody plays something and you're saying, oh God, what do I do about this? But you can't say it loud. You play, and then it happens over and over again where you're not comfortable, but you're playing because you have to make a move. It's your turn to move, but you are not comfortable. So I'm given an option of an opening that you can play that's going to make you actually comfortable. In fact, what happened with me, my story is quite different. When I saw this opening, that was years back, maybe 15 years back, I started playing it because I played the dragon a lot, and I'll also share the dragon, introduce the dragon to people, the dragon Sicilian. I played that a lot, and there were games where I you know how sharp that opening can be. And I realized, well, when I started playing chess over 35 years ago, I used to play e5, e4, e5 is what I used to play, and I was wondering what made me stop e5. Well, it was because of a lot of things, and I didn't like the stuff that you have to learn if you're going to play e5. It's a lot of things that white has got too many options. So when I played the Sicilian, it was good for me because I played the dragon, and then I was surprised because many people are now playing their bishop b5, bishop b5 lines, or they will play their c3 line, the Alpine line, you know. So it was, and then you lose those kind of games because you're not prepared for it. You know what to expect. So I said, no man, I don't have to play beautiful chess or sexy chess. It doesn't have to be that. All I have to do is to play chess that is sound, chess that doesn't have mistakes, but more importantly, chess that I feel comfortable playing, that I feel like I'm enjoying playing. I'm not afraid. So once I started playing this open, and say, well, white is struggling here, especially after maybe move 20 or so, where we're now all developed, and white is like saying, they feel like they're winning, and they're not sure how they're going to continue, and you are ready for them. Any mistake they make, you're going to murder them. I found that I was looking forward to playing with the black pieces, and I was just praying every time that somebody plays e4, because I was having this opening, because what it was doing for me was wonders. It was just always when I play the opening, maybe the guys that would beat me were 2300s on Lichess, and that's Lichess on chess.com. I don't think I lost many games. 2300, 2200, you upper 2200s, and you maybe 2100s. Anything else, they will struggle to win a game, to beat me with queen e7 on my second move, because psychologically they feel like they've won the game. So they feel like they're playing somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, especially if their rating is higher than yours. But almost every time, so having a position like this, psychologically it forces you to make the best move, whereas on the other hand, on the other side, white tends to be careless, because they feel, this is not what I've seen in my theory, this is not what theory says or dictates. How can somebody play like this? So they don't have to come up with very good moves, because they are assuming that you are playing bad moves yourself all the time. That's where you strike them. So yeah, I will share the games, and I hope this video was useful. but I will follow up on this opening, the Gundarem Defence, and I think some people will love it, especially anybody who's average rated, anybody below 2000. This opening must be one of your pet lines. Just play that opening, it will do wonders for you. I will show you a lot of games that white struggles. In fact, it's one opening that you just see white struggling. If you just put that at the back of your mind, that I'm learning an opening where white doesn't get their way, then you enjoy this opening. Just look at how white struggles. So when you look at the games, just remember how white struggles. Thank you. See you in the next video.